Going on, everybody? It is Key Time coming back with another one to talk about the NBA playoff games from last night. We got the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Boston Celtics, and also the late game, the Dallas Mavericks versus the OKC Thunder, and including tonight's games between the New York Knicks and Indiana Pacers and the Denver Nuggets and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Got a lot to get into in this show, and I'm about to do it right now. Starting off with the first game, the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Boston Celtics. Basically, with this game, I seen the entirety of this game. The Boston Celtics, they were leading this game after the first quarter, but I noticed that they took a lot of threes, but they didn't make but three threes in the first quarter. So I'm just looking at this game and seeing like, okay, since threes aren't going in tonight, will they go inside the paint? And as I suspected, no, they did not go inside the paint. This is typical Celtics. They have one of their off games, and that's what they had last night. I mean, when you look at it, from the floor, they were 33 of 80 for 41%, 8 of 35 from the 3-point line, and free throws 20 or 24. But that's nor here nor there. What I always like to go to is the rebounds. Boston got out rebounded last night in all phases. They got out rebounded on the offensive end, defensive end, and in total rebounds. And I'm going to give you the numbers that the Celtics and the Cavaliers had. Total rebounds for the Celtics were 31. Offensive rebounds for the Celtics were 6. Defensive rebounds for the Celtics were 25. For the Cavaliers, total rebounds 44. Offensive rebounds 7. Defensive rebounds 37. They out-rebounded them by 12. They out-rebounded them by 12 in the defensive rebound category, and total rebounds, they out-rebounded them by 13 in the total rebound category. So, congratulations to the Cavaliers. I'm going to get to some of their players' stat lines too. So, for the Cavaliers, Evan Mobley, he had 21 points, 10 rebounds, a double-double. Donovan Mitchell had 29 points and 7 rebounds. So, not to mention also, there was a few players that came off the bench last night. Caris LeVert, he had 21, along with Isaiah Orko, he had 12. So, and also the Cavaliers made more threes than the Boston Celtics. So that helped them out there a lot. And plus, when it comes to defending last night, the Cavaliers, they defended at an elite level, but most of the time it was just the Celtics missing wide open shots. I mean, when you have like Jason Tatum, he put up his numbers, 25 points. Jaylen Brown had 19. Derrick White, he had one of his regular games, not the breakout games like game 1. Peyton Pritchard, he had 13, and let's see, Luke Cornett only had 3, and Al Horford had 11. So, with the Boston Celtics, the threes were not going down, and I've been saying this all throughout the regular season and in the playoffs. If the threes aren't going in, go get inside the paint. And as far as paint points last night, Cavaliers outscored the Celtics in points in the paint by 14. So basically last night was a one-off for the Celtics. And that is why I say that, make no mistake about it, Celtics still going to win this series, whether it's in 5 games, 6 games, or 7 games. The reason why I say 7 games is because I know that they are going to have basically 1 or 2 games where they are going to be off. And this was one of them last night. So that is why I said that the Celtics are going to win in 7 games. But make no mistake about it, the Cavaliers, this is big ups to them, because in the previous series versus the Orlando Magic, they didn't win a game on the road. Now their first chance in this series versus the Celtics, they win game 2 on the road. So it's an even playing field now. Game 3 will be Saturday. So we will see what can the Celtics do to bounce back and take control of this series in game 3. So on to the next series, the Dallas Mavericks and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, with this series, I knew that Dallas was going to bounce back. I really did, because game 1, Luka Doncic, he didn't have a good game. So last night, Luka Doncic had 29 points, and also PJ Washington had 29 points. Kyrie Irving, he only had 9 points, but he was a facilitator last night. He really was, because Kyrie Irving had 11 assists last night. He got his other teammates involved. He had Derrick Jones. Derrick Jones had 9 points. Also, I just mentioned PJ Washington had 29 points. Most of those points came off of Kyrie Irving's assist. So now, when it comes to, we already know that Kyrie, he is gonna have one of those breakout games consistently. But like I said, after game 1, it's about getting your other teammates involved. And I'm not to forget Tim Hardaway Jr. He had a good game last night. He had 17 points. Daniel Guilford had 13 points too. The Maverick center, he had a decent game too. So now, what the Mavericks did last night was not really slow the game down, but you know, when it comes to the Thunder, they are the much younger team, the much inexperienced team, I might add. And when it comes to the Dallas Mavericks, they have experience in this round, in these type of playoffs. When it gets to the conference semis, not to mention 2 years ago, they got to the not the Western Conference Finals, but the conference semis, and played the Warriors and lost. So when it comes to the Dallas Mavericks, they have a two-headed monster with Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. So we already know what we're gonna get from Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. So now it's time for the supporting cast to step up like they did in the last playoff series versus the LA Clippers. PJ Washington, he stepped up last series. He stepped up last night. Derrick Jones Jr., he can do a little more. Daniel Guilford, he can do a little more. Derek Levy, I've seen him do more than what he did last night, just 2 points. Tim Hardaway Jr., if he could play like this consistently, have 17 to about 20 points a game, Dallas will be able to hang with some of the best of them. Josh Green had 11. So if the Mavericks are able to do this for 3 more games, and for the next series, whoever they play, the Minnesota Timberwolves or Denver Nuggets, it's looking like the Minnesota Timberwolves right now. But if Dallas can play the same way that they have played throughout the past series versus the Clippers and last night, they'll be able to win any series. They'll be able to win this series. Now, do I have them winning this series? Yes, I do, but it is strictly on experience, because we all know that OKC is the more talented team. But I always have said, when you are the top team in your conference and you are one of the youngest teams in the NBA, you are going to have pressure-packed moments when it comes to the playoffs. When it comes to, you might, I'm just going to say, for instance, if OKC gets down, I'm not even going to say in a series, but if they get down in a game by, I'm going to say 9, 12 points, what will they do? Because we didn't see that much in the Pelican series, because they were basically up for most of that series anyway. They didn't lose a game. They kept every game that the Pelicans played them in that first round series. They kept the Pelicans under 100 points. Now, last night was the first time they gave up over 100 points. So, game 3 is Sunday. No, excuse me. Game 3 is Saturday. So we will see if OKC can bounce back, or will the Dallas Mavericks take a 2-1 series lead coming Saturday. So as far as the next series, game 3 tonight versus the almighty New York Knicks versus the Indiana Pacers. Now, I talked about what over the last like day and a half, what I've heard coming out of the Pacers facility. It is just so, and I said this yesterday in one of my reaction videos, it is so egregious for the Indiana Pacers to file a complaint to the NBA office, over 78 missed calls. 78. I believe Rick Carlisle, the Indiana Pacers organization, is exaggerating on that, because there is no way in the world that 78 that they filed a complaint for 78 missed calls. That's not even possible. I mean, if it's possible, then you talking about 78 missed calls and you've only played 8 quarters. That's almost 8 calls a quarter right there. I mean, come on. And to what Rick Carlisle said, America, listen to me. The head coach, they always do that. They always say, players, let's not make it about the refs. But the moment that the head coach voices his displeasure, it's to the damn referees. It's to the damn referees. Rick Carlisle, there's only one thing I got to say. Practice what you preach. Really practice what you preach. If this was going in your favor, you wouldn't be voicing your displeasure about so many calls that the New York Knicks are getting in favor of. But I digress. I'm going to get to what is now. What is the present? What is the present? Game 3 is tonight. So, game 3 is tonight with the Pacers in Rock House Mortgage Fieldhouse. And I think that if the Indiana Pacers do not win tonight, the series is over. The series is over. Excuse me for a minute. If the Indiana Pacers do not win tonight's game, the series is over, because they are not going to win 4 straight versus a New York Knicks team that has got a dog in Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson, I was looking at a stat, and Jalen Brunson is on the cusp of surpassing Carmelo Anthony for most points in a New York Knicks uniform. Carmelo Anthony has 587 points in a New York Knicks uniform. Jalen Brunson currently has 575 points in a New York Knicks uniform. Not to mention that he has had 4 games in the playoffs where he has scored 40 or better. So I think the Indiana Pacers, if you don't win tonight, your season is over. And I still got the New York Knicks winning this series in 7 games. Tonight they are going to have it's going to be a tough outing for them because they are playing in Indiana, and we know how that crowd in Indiana can get. So if the Pacers win, okay, New York Knicks still have the series lead. So, but if I'm the New York Knicks, I'm going for the knockout punch tonight because I know in the history of the NBA, any team that gets down 0-3 in a playoff series, I'm going to look at, I'm going to look at the stats because I want to be very clear when I give y'all this stat. Teams that go down 0-3 in a playoff series in the NBA are 0-156. 0-156. So if the Indiana Pacers go down tonight, the series is over because it is almost impossible to beat somebody 4 straight times in a playoff series when you are down 3-0. So that's all I got to say about the Pacers. And one other thing, Rick Carlisle, Pacers organization, please do not complain about any of the calls because, let's say, you're at home. Most of the calls are going to go in your favor tonight. And I believe that you are going to win this game because most of those calls that y'all were complaining about in Madison Square Garden for games 1 and 2, y'all will be getting those calls in y'all favor tonight in Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse where y'all play at. So this is nothing. Those 78 calls don't mean nothing. So let's focus on Game 3 tonight, Rick Carlisle and all of the Pacers organization. Now, the next series I want to talk about is the Denver Nuggets and the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I'm going to say something before I get out of here. The Denver Nuggets, they're defending champions. They have been thoroughly annihilated these first 2 games. It's not looking too good. You got a young dog in Anthony Edwards, Ant-Man, who is coming for the throne. Also, not to mention, you got dogs all over the court for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Karl Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert, Jaden Williams, and you also got Mike Conley Jr., who has been in the league for over 15 years, still averaging his career point total. And then you got the Denver Nuggets, who are struggling to defend length because Minnesota, they have more length than the Denver Nuggets do. See, what the Denver Nuggets did in the first series versus the Lakers was rely on size, because we all know that outside of Anthony Davis, there was no other big man that the Lakers had. Now, with the Minnesota Timberwolves, you got about 2 or 3 big men that you could put somebody on Nikola Jokic. And Nikola Jokic, it seems like that over these first 2 games in this series, the man has looked wore out come to the 4th quarter. You got them battling down low, and also he's getting his points, but he is not scoring at the level of efficiency that we have come to accustom to see him score with. I mean, last game he was 5 of 13. Also, the game and also in the first game he was 11 of 16. So, not to mention, also, we don't know if I don't. Well, from what everybody is saying, Jamal Murray is hurt. I don't want to hear that foolishness. Jamal Murray ain't hurt. If he is able to go out there and hit 2 game-winning shots versus the LA Lakers in the previous series, he's able enough to go out there in this series and hit some shots too. Now, as far as Mike Malone concerned, if Jamal Murray is hurt, you should take him. You should take Jamal Murray out of the game the last few minutes of each quarter. I would say around the 4-minute mark of the first quarter, second quarter, and third quarter, take him out. So that if he does have leg problems, you need to have him suited up for the fourth quarter, because tonight the money is on the table. If you do not win, if the Denver Nuggets do not win tonight's game, then they are basically eliminated. I mean, they really are. And this would be the first time in over 14 years that a defending champion will get swept. The last defending champion that got swept was the 2011 Los Angeles Lakers, that they got Dallas Mavericks swept them 4-0 behind Dirk Nowitzki, Jason Terry, and Jason Kidd leading the charge. So, as far as for the Denver Nuggets, you have got to win this game. If you win this game, you will force it back to Denver. You will come back to Denver for game 5. But, and as I said, now, like I said earlier in the show, teams that go down 3-0 in a series are 0-156. So, this is you're basically playing for your playoff lives. You're playing for your season. You're playing for a chance. Your chances of repeating are done if you can't win tonight, Denver. So, as far as the Minnesota Timberwolves, I had Denver winning this series in 7 games. But Denver, they are just as collectively, as far as a team, I believe that they have too much firepower that the Denver Nuggets can withstand. Because when it comes to the Denver Nuggets, and this has played them over the last 3 years. If the Nuggets opponent has more length, they lose. Now we seen that when the Lakers 3 years ago, the Lakers, when they won versus the Nuggets. We saw that with a couple years ago when the Denver Nuggets lost in the playoffs. So now the Denver Nuggets are currently down 2 games to 0. Let's see what they can do tonight. Game starts at 9:30, and with that, those are my reactions from last night's games and the outlook on tonight's games. With that, please like, comment, share, subscribe, click the notification bell to get notified of my shows, reaction videos, and other content. And please remember one other thing, like I always say, the key is always on time.